Okay, I'm almost ready to start this layout process, and my mold's clear. I waxed it a few more times after pulling my test print over there. Using spray tack, high tack 71 from 3M. I personally really like this one. When I use the red stuff, well, my whole floor became sticky and a mess. So this is my way to go. And then over here, I have just my normal carbon fiber. I sprayed it down with that 71, so that way the top surface became kind of tacky, if you will. It's kind of dry now, so it's not really tacky, but it will allow me to cut my template pieces without really much fraying. Make sure the back side of the carbon fiber is nice and clean too. No debris. Alrighty. So now I'm just going to gently put it into place. All right, and now see, this is what you want to pay attention to when laying down a complex curvature like this, so that way your fabric doesn't start to get too distorted. So there we go. I'm just using a little X-Acto knife to manually fix something that just starts popping out visually speaking. All right, so that to me is a decent layout. So I'm just going to gently pop this over here, trying not to have it lose too much form. Now all I'm doing is taking this and just a really light mist. And luckily this stuff is very forgiving when it comes to its sticky behavior. So it kind of allows me to place and manipulate as I go. So there's that. Perfect. That's still popping into place. Got that one. And then what I'm going to do, because my fingers, there's always cuts and stuff just from all my hobbies. I got to put some gloves on so that way it's a smoother rub down. So, okay, as you can see, I don't have enough on the edge. There's a lot more excess up front than there is in the back. And this is where that 71 came in really nicely, where I was able to just pop it back. And what I'll do is just a little bit more offset. There we go. So that's getting into shape quite nicely. And then it's just gently massaging this one. And that's the thing that sucks. It's such an organic shape. It's really just got to take it slow to try to not distort the fabrics. What I'm going to start doing is kind of getting it to stick a little better. So all this like little debris, I'm just going to go in and gently clean up what I can. All right. So now I'm just going to give it a light little mist. Like that. Now, from the middle, work your way out to the edges. Okay. Perfect. So now it's the other side. So now I'm going to just pull back this area. As you can see, we definitely have fibers from the carbon fiber, little hairs. So, just get that out of the way. Just give it a light little mist. Okay. And again, kind of working your way out of the complex areas, which for this particular design, it's these areas right here. These are the complete pain in the butt. So just gotta try to get them to stay as I move the fiber around. And once we have enough, then it's good. So as you can see, really trying to get it to take shape of the organic areas. Now, last but not least, do the same exact thing to this side. So peel it back as much as you can without it starting to like feel like it's grippy. All right. Trying to get any of the hairs I can out. And then just the light mist. Okay, and same thing like the other side. My main focus is this right now. This little mounting area. And what I might actually do is just give it a little spray in there just so it really, once I place it, holds it tight. All right, now it's just a matter of just cutting off all the excess. All right, I have the first layer down. Now it's adding the reinforcement areas. So I drew these shapes within the 3D software that I use, printed them, and now I could cut out the templates. As you can see, thanks to that spray tech, it's holding shape quite well. The corners are nice and crisp, a little bit of distortion down here. But again, this is the back side, so it's not that crazy that it like stays true. But so there is this side, and it's just gonna go kind of right in here and around the monkey head. All right, got my other side cut, doing the same thing, finding out where that ear is. It is right there, so I just want to place it around and not interfere with the ear. All right, that's that. Now I'm gonna cut the other two, place them, and then it's just a matter of throwing more crap into it. All right, I got these two trimmed. As you can see, also very nicely, the shapes are holding true, nice corners. So now all I'm going to do is with the tacky side, so I inverted the template, and I am just gently going to place it right into here. So there's that. Same thing with this side. Now that's that. All right, so all I'm going to do is now measure the shapes, 3 to 3.5. All right, same thing like always. Take the X-Acto knife, pull a little fiber out. Grab it and just start. Oh, I think there's tape on this side, on the back side. There we go. Wing it. All right. So that is, in a nutshell, the 5x4. So my logic is I'm going to place it like this. And then, of course, it's going to overhang, so that way I give myself more of a nice lip to work with. So something like that. There we go. So now this area has no adhesion, and the outside corners do. So now all I'm going to do is go in, put that down. Now really work that monkey head in. But again, no adhesion, thus it has a little bit more wiggle room, a little more room for forgiveness, and it could be a little stretchier. All right, that is, for me, the ideal setup right there. Now, all I'm gonna do is just cover the rest of this mold with carbon fiber, and there's really no science to that. It's just placing it, spraying it, and No reason to waste a video on that stuff, but I'll continue it once I'm ready for the Peel Ply. All right, I got all my carbon fiber placed, so now it's time for the Peel Ply. Now, for something like this with a lot of the curvature, I don't want to risk bridging. That's my priority always with these complex things. It's simply because when I did the headlight for the motorcycle, I tried to do it all in one piece, and on one of these, I got some really bad bridging. What I'm gonna do is, I have Peel Plies that are kind of cut up like this, and I'm just gonna kind of layer them. So one layer is gonna be mainly to cover the monkey head, like so, and some of these areas right there. And then after that, it's just kind of laying out the rest. So what I usually do is when I apply them, I just overlap them, maybe the edge of it, like 25% on the crevice, like that much. And to me, I mean, I did that one, no issues. I've done the forged carbon headlight like that with a bunch of overlapping, and it came out wonderful. The results are fantastic. So maybe it's not the right way to do things, but it's a way that works for me. All right, so here is the Peel Ply laid out. I just use spray tack and it sticks to the surface, so it's done. What I did do is I marked where my key elements are that I'm kind of like trying to avoid bridging on. So obviously the monkey head, and then the mounting areas. Now, I use the green flow mesh, so it probably won't be an issue. But to play it safe, what I did on the other part is when I put the flow mesh in, I actually left these open because the resin will still flow through the material. It's just a lot slower. But what it's gonna do is gonna allow the vacuum bag to go directly onto the Peel Ply surface and be able to really like hold it snug. So again, these areas are probably easier to get away with. The monkey head, because it is an emboss and I'm just trying to force carbon fiber into very tiny details, I just leave it exposed, and then that way the vacuum bag could do what it does, and I kind of cross my fingers and hope for the best. So I'm gonna put in the flow mesh and kind of show you what that looks like. All right, got my flow mesh laid out. There are several pieces. So the sides, a piece, the top half of the monkey area, as you can see right here, a piece. And then this whole middle area is a piece. This was actually one piece, but I added some cuts right there. And then here's the deal. Like, this isn't that big of a problem, but I'll just go in and clean it up while I'm at it. So just so it lays good. Now, the one thing is little crevices like this isn't that big of a deal because the resin will still go through it. What I try to just make sure is to, at some point, let the flow mesh kind of touch. That way just allows the resin to kind of skip over and start its own flow with the new part. So that's why, like, even though these are all separate parts, it's not going to be an issue. And then what I personally like to do is the flow mesh that's for the resin feed line, I cut it as well. That way I don't have to worry about this kind of overhanging and having a potential issue with bridging. I might be overkilling it. However, it's easy. I just add a little cut. That's great. It doesn't puncture my bag or anything. And so as you can see, like I mentioned, the monkey head completely exposed, these little pockets exposed, and this one exposed. And this will still infuse just fine, no issues. So now what I'm gonna do is take off all the masking tape. Now, the way I like to bag things is a little different than what I've seen online. So this was a tip my buddy gave me, Nick. His Instagram is Boise Carbon, does a lot of sweet stuff. And I've always had issues with when I make pleats, especially on some of my molds that have curvature, the bag it'd be a real pain in the butt to really get it to kind of all make sense in terms of sometimes we'll have too much bag, not enough bag, one pleat has to shrink. It's just, it was very annoying. So what he said is he cuts the bag, puts the gum tape on the bag, and then puts the bag onto the mold. Is just take some of this gum tape and just slowly start working it into the bag, just like this. This way I could get as close to the edge as possible too, so I have more bagging material to play with. All right, like so. Now I'm just gonna massage it a little bit. Get it to really, really stick. Here we go, same exact process. Get it to grab on. All right. And there we go. Now, so that way it's just easier for me to leverage it and move things around. Okay. So get that nice and tight on both sides. All right. Same exact setup. All right. One solid piece, and all right. There we go. And then what I just do is mark what size is where. And then what I'll do is just trim the fat a little bit. I usually just reuse the old vacuum line unless some resin gets into it. Now this stuff, here we go. This will be my resin feed line. And then what I have is these things that I 3D print. Where's one? Here we go. So I have ones that I made with ridges. That way the hose, once it goes inside, it's really snug. It doesn't pop off. Originally I had these without ridges, and with the resin getting warmer or whatever, it would slowly pop off. These aren't going anywhere. And then I'm going to use this for testing the actual bag quality. So that's in the next stage. All right, before I start bagging, what I have to do is actually prep the hoses. So for this one, I'm just kind of eyeballing it, putting it right around here, because then I'll have some of my actual flow mesh inside the hose. And then just quickly adding a little bit of gum tape to the outside. So same exact thing. So vacuum line, kind of right there. So throw a little bit of gum tape on here. Like the other side. So same thing like before. We're going to use some rubbing alcohol here and clean the actual surface of the mold. There we go. And now as you can see, we got some hairs right there. So now with the tack cloth, I'm just going to go in and clean it all up. So now what I'll do is take off this corner of the tape bag, apply it like that. Now I'm going to go in, do this other corner, same exact process. Just make sure it's exposed. There we go. Apply it. So now I have a nice foundation. So again, just kind of make sure that no debris fell while you're doing that. That's looking good. Now I'm taking my, so I'm going, all right, that's the midpoint. That's where it just kind of naturally all levels out if you just use your finger. So now I just go in, I cut it, I open the bag, and so now I know, okay, this is roughly the point that is the middle of the vacuum bag. So I'm going to take my little feed line, I'm going to pop it in like that, and now take this stuff, pop it up top, there we go. And now all I'm going to do is kind of massage it. So pivot it around, work it way down, do the same exact thing here. So you just rotate out, get that bag right in that crevice, and this way just really helps keep it airtight. So there we go. So now that's done. So now all I got to do is, I have these clamps that I 3D printed, so just offset enough for my clamp to fit, like that. Now I'm just going to trim the excess. Now what I am doing is just taking this, working its way back. And now what I'm going to do is gently pull this back a little bit just to get it stretching out like that. And then I'm going to tuck it under there. And this just helps really, as much as I can, prevent air leaks until I'm actually like looking for them, which there's always going to be something somewhere. But this just helps to minimize the amount. So as you can see, I got a few fibers in there. I don't know how it gets under the tape, but it does. So I'm just gonna see if I could use one of my razor blades to get it out without adding more to it. It might create a more problem. So I'm just gonna send it and see what happens. So there we go. So that's one pleat done. And now the beauty of this method for me is it's always consistent. Like, this is how much material I have to work with. There's nothing I could do that will more or less ruin it for me. So same exact concept. I'm moving it out here, cutting the excess, taking this side, pulling it out, and working its way to the other side of the pleat. And so I gotta get my X-Acto knife. That's gonna be the only way to get this little debris out. This is from the wax paper anyway, so I don't know why it's sticking. There we go. All right, so now work its way into it. Pull that back. There we go. Get it to kind of connect the best we can. And now just peel this back like that. And as you can see, the pleat just kind of naturally just takes shape. And there we go. So now we have the pleats complete. Nothing too much, nothing too little. Everything's nice and perfect. Now I'm gonna take my 3D printed thing, some of my clamps, put that over here, and clamp it down. There we go. Now I'm gonna rotate the mold 180 degrees and do the same exact thing on this side. Like that. And so now the last step is the sides. So same exact concept. Before I start putting down the bag, go in and clean it. And I definitely see little fibers, so this is the area that's really one you gotta take, well, you don't, I do. I have to take my time with. Make sure I don't get fibers underneath the gum tape. Otherwise it could be a very annoying air leak to track down and try to fix. Okay, so now the only trick is when doing these bags this way is I noticed it becomes very awkward stretched in this corner because it's so perfect. So what I like to do is just create a little pleat, and that just gives it enough of a flex over here to not have an issue anymore. So now I'm just gonna clean and work my way through it. So there we go, like that. Now I'm just gonna give it a little pleat right there. And with these, as you can see, because it's not like the other one where we had to work its way to the middle. Granted, if you had like 4 pleats, sure, but here I only had 1 and 1. So now on this side, I could naturally just keep working my way from one side to the other if I wanted to. So now I'm just kind of working and cleaning. Working and cleaning. So I do want another pleat kind of like right in this area. So what I'm going to do for the moment is just cut that and now do this side. So same concept. Get it to come out. Do a little pleat, and actually I'll just do a little bigger one. There we go. All right. And now shape. Okay. Everything is looking good. Nice and clean. All right. Now, as you can see, the beauty of this method is once you're out, you're out. So it will naturally create the final pleat with whatever it has left to work with. So it could be a big one, it could be a small one. It's just a matter of what size you use where. So when I did the first version of this, I only did 3 pleats. Here I did 4, so they were smaller. But in theory, it should be just fine because that other mold or that other bag that I did had plenty of material to work its way in the middle. So now it's just that final side, same exact thing. So that very tedious process is how I bag this shape. And so now what I can do is suck some of the air out in the old-fashioned way, and this way I could at least kind of shape the bag and the pleats to kind of. Now, like I mentioned, the key area for me is the monkey head and like these little support mount areas. So that's looking good. These right angles should be good and tight. Okay. All right, so now the stage is for me to figure out if I have a leak or not. So I have my pump going and I have a bunch of these quick connects. I'm sure people will say those are not good to have. They could have leaks there. I haven't had any issues yet, so I keep using them. I'm not a professional. I'm not making parts for sale. I'm just doing this for myself. So for me, this works perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do is just open the valve and just kind of let the bag start doing its thing. As of right now, this is still open, so it will never be under pressure. I just want to be able to kind of manipulate it and place it where I want the actual material to be. I want to make sure the actual bagging material like that goes there, like so. All right, got a noise somewhere. That's fine. I don't really care right now. All right, so there's that. That's good. The monkey head. So let's see. Let's shift some of this over to the monkey head. Same thing on this side. I want to make sure it could get as much detail out of the bagging as possible. So kind of get it nice and snug like that. Extra material around the edges, but try to get it nice and smooth on the actual surface. And this is, again, just my opinion. Not saying it's the right way to do it. This is just the way I like to do it for me. So yeah, and this could completely fail, so I'm still learning. All right, you gotta completely open it. Now this is where this guy comes into play. So this is gonna tell me if I have an air leak or not. So I am just connecting it to him. And so what I want to do is get this value down to -2, -4. So right now, as you can see, it's 347, 348. There's a leak somewhere. So what I'm gonna do now, this is how I've been using this, is I just kind of go around and I massage it. So as you can see, whatever I was squeezing in this area does affect it, which means there's a leak coming from this little corner. So I'm just gonna keep working my way around the edges. All right, see how that value is really dropping? 97, 86, 83. And that doesn't really mean it's airtight yet. So I'm just gonna continue walking around the corners, and so okay, when I gripped it there, something happened as well. So sometimes even a reaction of it jumping up is a good sign, because it means that was a room for air situation, and we fixed it. So we're at 42 now, working our way down, 39. And it's not like it goes down to a negative value immediately. It works its way down. So I just keep massaging it until it really goes down. So as you can see, we're at 15 now, 14, 12. This is already looking really good. So now it's just kind of like that last little hump to the finish line of the negatives. And then all I'm gonna do is just close off the valves and see what happens with the actual pressure. And that's why I really like this tool. Those things, the gauges, especially when I moved from the East Coast to the West Coast, the elevation change, that thing's kind of screwed up as is. But this works. It's a very simple value, and it's very easy to see if the mold is working very well or if you have air leaks. So we're at 0 now. I'm just gonna keep working my way around the edges. All right, just hit -1 a second ago. That's awesome. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do is remove this stuff and make sure that this stuff has no leaks anywhere, even though it honestly shouldn't, based on how much overlapping and such I've had. All right, might use my other clamps just so they're not as aggressive as these. These are really, there we go, that feels much safer without it actually ripping into the bag. Now I'm gonna do the same thing on this one. Massage that. So we're at -1 right now, and I don't think it's there yet. So I'm just gonna keep working my way around it. But that's my workflow. So -2. So we're getting better. So feels really nice, nicely compressed. So I'll just keep working my way around it, keep an eye on it, and then just do a drop test. Okay, when I weighed my mold with the fiber and everything, it came up to be 90 grams, 95 grams. I do know when I did the first one, I actually threw away about 40 grams worth of resin. That was excess. That wasn't even inside the hose. So what I am going to try to do for this one is mix 70 grams worth of resin. It's a 2-to-1 ratio. It's slow cure epoxy. So I'm going to do 70 grams of resin, 35 grams of hardener. So now I am going to degas the resin. And this is my method for it. It could be the wrong way. So I'm not saying this is the right way to do it, but this is the way I've been doing it, and it's been working. So I'm just gonna put my stir stick there. I just put it into my catch pot and then turn it on with the valve open. So there we go. As you can see, we're getting a little bit of, I don't know how hard it will be to see through the video, but then I just slowly start closing the valve, and the trick is to slowly do it. Otherwise it could really pop and jump. And so now what's gonna happen is I wait for it to start bubbling up. Different resins behave differently. Solar composites resin, I did not like it at all for degassing. This US composites one is nice because it just generates a bunch of bubbles at once, which then you have to kind of throttle like I'm doing here by opening and closing the actual vacuum area. But once the bubbles are done, they're done. The solar composites one, for whatever reason, it generated the bubbles, then it stopped, and then after like 3 minutes they started coming back up and then just wouldn't stop coming. So this one, yeah, it's kind of a pain because it does generate quite a bit, where if you don't watch it, it's going to go outside the edges of the cup, so you could use a bigger mixing surface. I've been able to get away with this just by doing this. So this is the workflow. Just open, close, just let the bubbles come up, die off, come up, die off. So I'm gonna pause the video simply because there's no point in recording this tedious back and forth, but I'll continue as soon as I have something more entertaining to watch. All right, so we are pretty much done degassing. Again, I don't know how much the GoPro's capturing, but you could almost not have it. Like, there's almost nothing there. So I'm just gonna clamp one side off. I'm gonna leave it, it's just annoying to reach to. But the trick is to slowly open up the air. If you do it too quick, it will explode all up inside the chamber. There we go. Okay, so now there's my resin. So what I'm gonna do now is connect the actual vacuum to the part. There we go. Open up the vacuum. Actually, one second. Not like the way this was overhanging, just a little too much for my liking. Just fix that. There we go. All right. Put that back on. Turn that on. All right. Now I got air going back into, or vacuum going into my part. I'm gonna go ahead and open this valve. Just leave it for a second or two. All right, and now what I have here is just a Gatorade bottle that I designed 3D print these caps for. The caps are one-time use. I could reuse the bottle as long as I don't have resin cure where it's like prevents me from installing this. So now what I'm doing is just gently pouring the degassed resin inside. So that's there. And then what I usually do is just kind of fold my cup like this and just pop it in. So that way just whatever's left keeps getting dropped. Now what I'm doing is I have 2 clamps, one on each side. I'm gonna open up one of them. Now as you can see, I have the resin flowing. It's not open yet, but that was just because when I took off my little pressure gauge, I clamped off this side and then that side. So there was already some pressure in the hose itself. So now, with this open, I'm gonna go in, reposition this somewhere around here for later on when I wanna clamp it off and be done with the part. And this way I could also prevent actual bubbles getting into the hose in case, for whatever reason, I overuse the resin. So now I'm just gonna gently open this up. And here it comes. Now we just watch how this infuses. This being carbon Kevlar, this is the first time I'm infusing this stuff, so I have no idea what to expect. And now what I'm doing is I'm pitching it a little more because I want it to go slowly. I don't want to go too fast. So there we go. The resin is flowing. And as always, just like last time, it slowly works its way through the monkey head because there's no flow mesh there. But that's okay. It's slow cure resin also. I could leave it. So here I have some, I think it's when I heat it up, just some little flakes. So that's how I could see how quickly it's moving. So I'll clamp it off just so they're moving slower. And because I have the peel ply and stuff, those flakes will just stay on the top. But as you can see, no air bubbles anywhere. That's a very good sign. That means there's no leaking pockets in the gum tape or the mold. Because my other 3D printed mold, before I started doing this resin trick, it would literally have little tiny bubbles everywhere. So anyhow, I'm just gonna let it slowly infuse, and then I'll get back to the video once it's fully infused, just for entertainment purposes, show that it does get the monkey head and everything. So yeah. All right, well, the infusion's almost done. It's working its way up just to that final edge. Monkey head, as you can see, fully infused. All these areas fully infused. The edges still have a little bit of resin to get around them, but I'm not too worried about it because there's still plenty of resin in the line, and I have not turned on my heater yet. As soon as that heater starts warming up the chamber, the resin kind of distributes even better. So last step is to close off the doors and to really let it start baking away. So this is slow cure. Based on the US Composites website, they do recommend a 24-hour cure cycle for it.
or waiting time, whatever the hell you want to call it. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna close off these lines, turn on the heater, and let it bake away. For this stage, I like to wear gloves just to be safe. All right. Just for curiosity, no resin got into the vacuum line. It's always interesting to see how far up it'll go. So I'm gonna clean the mold off later for a proper cleaning, but and actually to avoid it getting really dirty, for just removal of the gum tape and such, I'm gonna remove my gloves. So this is where the gloves come. And I just use one of these tools, bought them at a local hardware store. And it just makes it a lot easier for me to just really get under the carbon fiber in case it's not releasing too quickly. This is what I do. I try to see how stuck the mold is, or the part is inside the mold. So kind of forcing it a little bit. As you can see, it's just not coming out easy. So I could try to wiggle it and force it out, and that could get it out. I don't know if it would damage the surface of the mold in any way, but my buddy Fabian, he mentioned this trick to me, which works amazingly well. You just take the mold, you pop it in the freezer for about 15 minutes or so, and the part's gonna slide right out. So as you saw, it wasn't coming out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave it in there for a little bit, pause the video, come back, and you'll see how quickly it pops out. All right, gave it a little bit of time to pop it out. Mold feels nice and cold, and there it is. That's as easy as it was. As you saw, I didn't even have to pry it, nothing. Just popped right out. And there is the part. Mold surface perfectly good. Now time to take a look at what the heck we have. So, overall, it looks really nice. I see a little bit of flaw right there. And other than that, this is a good looking Fender. So that's it. So what's left for me to do is trim, clean the surface off, maybe a little wet sanding. I mean, well, let's see what this is. So this is just a little bit of bridging, which again, because it is actually putting carbon fiber into the very tiny details, I knew it was gonna happen. So I'll just kind of fix this in post, if you will. A little bit of super glue and clear coat, and that's about it. But other than that, I'm not mad at this at all. And it's got a semi-gloss finish from a 3D printed mold, so happy about that as well. So needless to say, that's my process. And then this is just debris that comes right off right there, so that's not a big deal. So from start to finish, more or less, the only last step is obviously it's a little post work and some clear coating, but clear coating, that's a whole different tutorial thing. There's YouTube videos for clear coating, but as far as the carbon fiber stage goes, that's it. Pops right in. And then I have my template for cutting, which is right here. So let's see how this will fit into my template. There we go. So pop that in, drill the holes, tighten it, draw the line work for where I need to cut it, and that's it. This thing is almost done. All right, so just finished polishing this thing up, and this is the final result. Now, these little pockets right here. I have the tool to get in the crevices, but that's where it mounts on the motorcycle. So it goes like that. So that part's never seen anyway, but that's it. Looking good in my opinion. When it hits the sun, that's when it really pops. There it is. So that, in a nutshell, is a Honda Monkey front fender from the mold stage to the carbon fiber stage.